Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last night I asked this chamber to consider how we value work and how we especially value workers, because I think that really is the question at hand before this chamber. Today I'd like to discuss a slightly different topic, but one that relates very much to the bill and also to this amendment. Today I'd like to discuss a sad trend exemplified in this bill, and that is the slow, steady dismantling of government to create a corporate working order in which huge private businesses hold influence over the public and public policies without recompense. Government has been sold to the highest bidder, ladies and gentlemen, and they have done so in order to ensure the unchecked predominance of the wealthy and those who have. Look at the ads running on TV in Iowa, the ads that support this bill. They are funded by big out-of-state donors and managed by a former spokesperson for Governor Branstad. That is what this bill is, another step of tilting taxpayer dollars away from public good and public policy and toward outside groups who have purchased influence. It used to be, in my parents' generation, that the public viewed politics and government as two separate entities. Politics dealt with campaigns and elections. Government used not only to be revered for the potential good it could do for society, but it also was viewed as independent of campaigns themselves. I draw your attention to some big things, not too distant history, like World War II, the Great Depression, the high schools and theaters, small town swimming pools, and public art projects across this state, built by our forebears and valued as public works, valued by the public itself as work, because protectionism and corporate greed had robbed them of a living otherwise. Corporate greed and protectionism are back. Well, back then, we were proud to elect officials that embodied the ideals of society, that included conservatives who believed government could do good without racing to the bottom, depressing wages, and creating a second class of citizens. But now, politics and government have become conflated. And it is to the detriment of each and every one of us who serve in government. It is also to the detriment, more than anything, to the public. Politics and government have become conflated. It's now become a spectator sport. The public views politics and government as one and the same, and they do so in large part because of bills like this, bills like House File 291. It's a bill that has nothing to do with good public policy. It is a bill not requested by your constituents or mine. And thinking back to last fall, I recall campaign ads about compromise and working together, but I have not yet seen this session compromise and working together largely extended by the majority party. So Jeff Kaufman, he can flip-flop and change his mind all he wants, but there has been no constructive input accepted by the majority party, offered by the minority party, or offered by people affected by this bill. He's welcome to change his mind. He can say whatever's right in the moment. But this bill is campaign politics, and in my opinion, it is a move by legislative leaders, the Republican Party, and the Branstad-Reynolds administration aimed solely at preserving electoral power. That's my opinion, but I think there's a lot of the public waking up to the same opinion as well. Across this state, in every district the past few weeks, hundreds of people, hundreds, and even here in the Capitol, thousands of people have been turning out with a reasonable expectation that their elected officials would listen to them. Too bad. I look around this chamber, I see rank-and-file members of the majority party, some of them listening. I look around and they look sad. Some of them look uncomfortable. And many of them are brand new to this chamber, and this is the first situation they've encountered. I say situation and choose my words carefully because this is not a debate. Debate implies exchange, consideration, and listening, not elected officials wearing headphones at their desk all night. So, perhaps newly elected Republicans campaigned on fiscal responsibility. During the first 2 weeks, the GOP demonstrated what their concept of fiscal responsibility entails. Their version preserves excessive tax cuts at the expense of families in poverty receiving cancer treatment. The GOP version of fiscal responsibility preserves huge tax credits while demanding college students pay higher tuition to cover the cost of poor judgment The GOP version holds harmless the operating budget of their party's governor while cutting law enforcement and public safety. Perhaps some of the newly elected Republican representatives campaigned on more local control. It's a phrase I've heard the GOP use several times over the last few days. It was in their updated talking points leaked to the media. Well, the opinions of local elected officials in Sioux City, including our mayor, our city council, and school board members, don't believe this will create more local control. It binds their hands and it undervalues the workers that they are striving to support. The mayor of Sioux City just this week said, quote, "It seems like our public employees are under attack because of the influence of outside interests that believe all public sector employees care about is themselves," end quote. And I don't need to remind everybody in this chamber and those watching at home that Sioux City is not a hotbed of liberalism. The point is this. I also read an article in the Cedar Rapids Gazette, published just yesterday. In this article, the journalist reflects on an interview with the Speaker of the House. Last summer, it says, Uppmeyer, Republican of Clear Lake, insisted Iowa is not Wisconsin. She said the GOP majority had no plans to do anything outrageous. When I asked how they might reshape bargaining, she gave no details. Quote, "I don't think we're interested in doing extreme things," Uppmeyer said. The point is this. These are extreme policies. These are policies that are opposed by the broad majority of Iowans. They identify this as unfair, and the GOP has gone too far. Iowans know this is extreme. That's why they're turning out in record numbers to forums, hoping to be listening to be listened to by their elected officials, even though that has yet to happen. We will remember this. Last year, the GOP campaigned on entirely different issues. They told us they would introduce a few tweaks, bait and switch. Instead, they video conferenced with Scott Walker. The GOP said they're responding to a huge outcry from constituents, bait and switch. A Republican state senator told me this week that the lobbyist from Americans for Prosperity, funded and started by the Koch brothers in 2004, had been in contact with the majority party, quote, "throughout this process." So it's great to see that a lobbyist funded by outside dollars not coming from Iowa has been in contact throughout this process with the majority party, while many of the majority party members are ignoring the wishes of their constituents. So, tonight, let me close by welcoming all the newly elected legislators. You continue to attend forums every weekend, feeling the heat of your constituents, who are saying, quote, "This will end my career. It will make it harder for my children to live in rural Iowa. It will decimate the local economy." While at the same time, your leadership has forced you into a corner. The majority leader and the Speaker haven't held a public forum since the outset of session. This bill will be passed on the backs of rank-and-file members with your votes at the expense of your constituents. Bait and switch.